A man has been arrested after shooting 2 Texas cheerleaders, one critically, after one of them mistakenly got into the wrong car. Peyton Washington, we can put up a picture right here, was a cheerleader that was critically injured and is stable in the ICU. That is the good news in this story, and it is the only good news in this story. This is the suspect, Pedro Rodriguez Jr., a 25-year-old, now been charged with deadly conduct, a 3rd-degree felony. I suppose the fact that he was promptly charged is the second bit of good news, and we can't take that for granted in America when someone needlessly shoots multiple people. What happened here is that Lynn Shearer, owner of Woodlands Elite Cheer Company, said that the cheerleaders typically carpooled from the Austin area to her gym for their training. On Monday night, she said at least 4 cheerleaders were on their way back to Austin, and they had to stop at an HEB, that's a Texas supermarket chain, where some of the members had parked their cars. One of the girls accidentally tried to get into the wrong car. That's when she said, quote, a guy got out and they saw that he had a gun. And so they tried to speed off and he shot his gun like 5 times or so into the car. Heather Roth, one of the cheerleaders, said in an Instagram live post that she was the one who got out of her friend's car and opened the door of another vehicle she thought was her own, only to notice a man was in the passenger seat. She said she got out of the car and back into her friend's vehicle. Roth reportedly said the man approached their vehicle and she rolled down a window to apologize. That's when the man started shooting. And if this is reminding you of other news stories, it's because yes, we have had multiple days pass with people, including Ralph Yarl. We had a story yesterday, ringing the wrong doorbell, pulling into the wrong driveway, accidentally getting very briefly into a car, and then with no harm, no foul, leaving and trying to apologize. And unfortunately, we have a country that is so chock full of guns and terror that all of them resulted in shootings, none of them had to. In all of these cases, despite the fact that we've been told a million times during our life that we'll all be safer if only there are more guns around, literally the only thing that resulted in these stories being tragedies was the presence of a firearm. Every one of these stories could have been exactly the same, except the person didn't have a gun, and it wouldn't even be a story. We wouldn't have to be thinking about it. She wouldn't be in the ICU. Ralph Yarl wouldn't be, possibly looking at years or a lifetime of recovery. The woman in, I believe it was upstate New York, wouldn't have died. It was the guns that made them tragedies. That's what they're designed to do. Jayar, what do you think?
So this is the cheerleader that was sitting in the car because they had a carpool lot. They'd come in after this long practice. It's middle of the night and she's dropping her friend off. The cheerleader that went to the wrong car got grazed by a couple of bullets. Sadly enough, the trauma she has to go through just from seeing that. So Peyton here, who was the victim, the one who was in the ICU over this whole thing, was sitting in the car. So to folks who maybe say like, yo, when you go up to the wrong car, that's the circumstance, that's the consequence, or maybe she should have been jiggling on someone else's car door. Even if it was a mistake, because we never know, what should Peyton have done? Sit there, wait for her friend, and then when somebody approaches, when she has no idea why her friend is running back to her car going, I'm sorry, I had the wrong car, and then gets shot multiple times and is gonna have to get parched over, spleen removed, and all these things that are happening to her. What should she have done in this country? Someone like Charlie Kirk has an answer, and he said it before. We just have to have some of y'all die for the fact that I get to worship my guns. That's the answer. There's no other answer. So anything else you hear when it comes to maybe you should have done this, maybe you should have done that, maybe you should have done the third thing, they don't mean any of it. What they mean is maybe you should just die because I gotta have my guns to defend myself from people who are doing nothing. Let me go ahead and just shoot them. And by the way, John, Ralph Yarl was Thursday last week. Kaylin Gillis was Saturday over the weekend, and this was Monday. It's every 2 days. These are the ones that we're hearing about. Imagine how many we don't.
That's a great point. Yeah, I don't know, because little stories like this could easily just be local or state news. It's possible that these last 2 were only news because of Ralph Yarl. That might be the only reason it was raised to a national level. That is a great point, JR. But I will suggest one other thing that I guess they were supposed to do according to everything that we've been taught. So if he's justified, and we'll see based on Texas's stand your ground laws, which by the way have been linked to something like 700 additional deaths each year after they're put into place. What they should have done is if he was justified in following them back to their car, cheerleaders, to shoot them because he was so threatened, well, they were being approached by a guy with a gun. They should have had a gun, and when he was walking towards them, they should have gunned him down because they were threatened more than he was. That's the cool thing about more people having guns. guns are simultaneously the solution to being threatened and implicitly threatening. They justify their own use. The more guns around, the more shootings you have, the more guns you need because of all the shootings, and the more shootings you'll have because of all the guns. This doesn't make much sense from a human point of view, but if you sell guns or stay in power based on getting people to be terrified 24/7, then it makes a certain sort of sick sense.
You know what we always sell it on is there's certain kinds of people that do this. The first one was a white guy for the young black teenager. Then it was a white guy and a young white woman with Gillis. And then it was a Latino guy with what appears to be a black woman or a mixed woman. So all this is, it seems like it just keeps crossing all these different boundaries of it's the people and it's not the guns. The guns are always the constant. Just keep it in mind.
Check out the Damage Report podcast each day, wherever you get your podcasts, whether Pocket Casts or Stitcher or iTunes. You can join me as I give you the news and stories you want, with a range of co-hosts and interview guests jumping in on the fun each day. Again, that's the Damage Report, wherever you get your podcasts. And if you get them at iTunes, don't forget to rate and review. Sometimes I'll read them live on the show.